family time, very often it just comes down to, I say just, but it's very difficult in setting boundaries and really guarding those times that you spend with family or with your partner. Even if it's, I often say to people, even if it's half an hour or an hour, it doesn't have to be a whole day or a whole evening, but just really protect that time and guard it with your life. Turn phones off, don't answer the phone or the door or any of that. Just really enjoy that time and make it really special and really guard it.
Okay. So you said turn off phones when you're with family. That's something that I think for my generation and younger, and even all generations really, our phone can almost become part of us. And so putting the phone down, putting it in a certain place where it's out of reach for a bit, and maybe going on a walk or that kind of thing. And conversation around family time. Would you think that like having meals together is important, or do you think it's okay to chill out in front of the telly and have your food? What would you say about that, meal times?
I think meal times can be a really great time to just catch up on life, especially if you are busy and if you're doing mission work. Very often you're sort of on the run the whole time. So if you happen to have 10 minutes where you're sitting having a meal, then why not use that time to catch up with each other and relax a bit, have a bit of a laugh and support each other if that's the case. And also just the common things like getting enough sleep and not being afraid or embarrassed or worried about needing a lot of extra sleep, because mission work, wherever you're doing that, is hard work. When I say planning, I'm sure we all have like a calendar or a diary or a thing on our phone, and I think people are so used to putting in things like meetings and work stuff and the dentist and all of that, but in actual fact looking after yourself is just as important. If anything, that's the most important meeting to be scheduled, or the time with family. So I tend to encourage people to slot that in, almost like a meeting in your diary, and to make time for that. Really go for it, even if it's 10 minutes where you sit and you have a favourite drink and you read a few pages of a book, or you go for a nice walk and have a change of scenery. Sometimes that distraction can be enough, and it's all to do with looking after yourself, because then you're more able to focus on others and do all those other roles. But you've got to look after yourself, because like a car running on empty, it's just not going to work.
No.
So you've got to put that fuel in, the healthy diet, the exercise, the sleep, the me time, and not being embarrassed about that. It's not selfish. It's thought of as selfish if you sit still for 20 minutes or you have a nap for half an hour or go for a walk. You know, there's so much other stuff to do. It's not important, but actually it is. It's really important.
Okay. So it's that being intentional and being disciplined, really, which
That's
is
it.
So we're very intentional and disciplined if we've got a dentist appointment, we've got to see the doctors, we've got to do this, that and the other, got a business meeting, we can be very intentional and disciplined about that. But what you're saying is of equal importance is our family, ourselves, looking after ourselves so that we live a longer and healthier life, so that we don't burn out quick, that we've got that longevity for ourselves.
And that's really valuing that as well, and not feeling guilty about it. You know, it's just looking after yourself. You know, our bodies are a temple, and that includes trying to deal with the stress of everyday life, which is very apparent at the moment. It seems to be a common theme in my work, in some level or another. So I think things can really get so stressful so quickly.
Right.
So don't be afraid to set aside time for that.
Okay.
Even if it goes against the grain or it feels unnatural because you haven't been out with your husband or wife for ages, so that's a bit strange. You know, what would I say? What would I do? Yeah. But you can get used to that again, and you know, have a trip down memory lane, go somewhere you used to go, have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. It's a bit of creativity, have that bit of creativity and not get sort of stuck in a rut with, you know, going to the same place and fish and chips on a Friday or this or whatever. Doing something a bit different. And I guess is that all about quality of life as well? You know, Jesus said, I've come that you may have life and have it in all its fullness and in abundance. And obviously that means eternal life, but it's to do with life here, that there's a richness. Yeah. God's given us all things richly to enjoy is another scripture, that He's given us things to. So there's a richness and a quality in life that I guess it's a difference between a McDonald's meal, nothing against McDonald's, or a like Michelin style. It's the kind of really nice food, you know, where they've got the depth of flavours and the marinades, and there's a difference between the two. And I like McDonald's as well, but there's a difference between the two, and I think what you're saying is there's a quality and a depth of life that maybe we've not tapped into yet.
Yeah, there's a difference between what I call surviving and living. Okay. So you can just tick along in life and tick the boxes, do what you've got to do, but you're not really enjoying life because you're so stressed. Yeah, yeah. But then there's the other side where you could actually really enjoy life a lot more than you are, by not being afraid to have fun, not being afraid to stop sometimes and just be still and hear God's voice in the quiet times, or take time out to play with the children and really enjoy that. So that means not having one eye on the dinner stuff and the phone in the other hand. That's not quality time with the children. I mean, shut those things off completely and stop. Even if it's for 10 minutes. Okay. I know I say that phrase a lot, but I think people sometimes think they've got to give a load of time. Right. They've got to do a massive activity with their children, otherwise it doesn't count. Yeah. They don't look at their watch. They don't write in their news books at school, or mummy played with me for 2 hours. Yeah. Or mummy played with me for 2 minutes. They just write what they've done with mummy. Yeah. You know? Okay. So they don't care what it is. They'll just remember the fun they had. Yes. Or that mummy and daddy looked really happy tonight, and they watched a really funny thing on the telly. Okay. You know? Yeah. It's just what they see, and that's great. Okay. I think the first thing to say here is we all struggle with our marriages and relationships sometimes. So there's no sort of perfect out there at all. And I think sometimes people, as they look around, or on a Sunday in church or in their neighbourhood, whatever, sometimes you feel that you're quite alone in this, and that you're struggling, and everyone else is so happy and managing so well. So I think just accepting that actually everyone struggles with things in some way all the time, you know. So don't necessarily go by what things look like physically on people's faces and that. And I think just being honest with yourself and not too hard on yourself here, because life is hard and things are up and down a lot in your daily lives. So the key thing is to try and keep communication going, whether you're angry or happy, having a bad day or a good day. Try and be specific with what you're saying, because if you're guessing what each other are feeling and thinking all the time, half the time you guess wrong. Yeah. If one of you's hurting and you get into those mind game things where you think the other one should know what you're thinking and all of that stuff. Yeah. That gets tricky, because sometimes that backfires, so you don't gain anything. So try and just put your cards on the table and say it as it is sometimes. Be honest, be specific. And that goes for positive things as well. Don't forget to notice what each other does and thank each other for that. Be specific with that too, you know? Even if it's strange at first, give it a go. It works really well, because we all like praise. Yeah. Just like children do. As adults, we still like that. Yeah. Feels good. Yeah, it does. You feel important. The other person's noticed you, and actually, you're not taken for granted, because
Yeah.
they've just mentioned that thing that you do.
Right.
So that can change your whole feeling for the day.
It can. Yeah.
And the whole purpose of what you're doing. So instead of
Yeah.
struggling, that one tiny bit of, whether it's a text or something verbal, can change your whole feeling and mood for the whole day.
So it's noticing what the other person does and being thankful for it, and verbally thanking them, and also just being aware that sometimes we can't read the other person's mind. So just putting it out on the table, oh, you seem a bit sad, what's happening? Or I'm feeling like this today, this is what's happening today. So, you know, just bear with me. And then that kind of shared understanding, I guess it's all about communication and shared understanding and speaking the same language, really. You're talking from the same, you know, you're actually sharing your experience. And I think there's this little story in Genesis about the guys that built the Tower of Babel. And it said because they were speaking the same language, nothing was impossible for them. And I think there's something about when you're talking that you're actually communicating, you're understanding what each other is saying.
Yeah, that's it.
And being open.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also connected to that is the whole listening skills thing. I mean, I don't know about you, but it's quite hard to listen and not interrupt.
It is,
especially if you don't necessarily agree with something, or you want to just solve that thing,
right,
and help that person and offer ideas, because it's quite painful seeing them struggling. But sometimes people don't necessarily want that. They just want to be heard.
Okay.
They want you to show that you're really understanding them. So sometimes you don't actually need any words. Just being really quiet and letting them get all that stuff out works wonders, you know.
Okay.
Or sometimes if both of you are struggling in a marriage or friendships, sometimes you don't need words. Literally, neither of you. Sometimes just sitting there together and enjoying, you know, just a bit of quiet time, or sometimes just a hug as you pass by the other one. It just shows that you're thinking of them, but there's nothing you can say at the moment, because they're obviously struggling with that thing. Sometimes that can mean more than words as well. Right. Because you haven't forgotten them. Right. You're not annoyed with them because you've done that hug or that sort of arm around them or that little text. Yeah. Okay. And that counts for a lot. Yeah. And just making regular time for each other is just so important, especially if you're very busy with mission work. Okay. One of the things I wanted to ask was, would you say that, say for example, maybe a couple either works together in a missions or a ministry setting, and then they go out, say on a date night, say if they plan that in, like as you said with family time, with time as a couple, just to plan a babysitter, plan a night out, even if it's just for a walk. You might not have a lot of money. It might be fish and chips, you know, walking by the river or something, I don't know. Yeah. But would you say that it's a good thing to put boundaries around what you talk about? Maybe say, okay, we're not going to talk about work today. We're just going to enjoy each other's company. Let's chat some normal stuff. Is that a good thing? If maybe that can be a mutual thing that helps them, because I think you can sometimes do that, especially if you're aware that both of you are quite stressed about a particular thing. Yeah, you could make that sort of agreement. Yeah, there's together. A very good book actually called which you may have heard of. It's called Boundaries. Oh yeah, okay. And it's a Christian book by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. Okay. And it goes through all the different aspects of, and in a biblical sense as well, the different aspects of life and how setting boundaries can be really freeing for you. And it just helps you with lots of different areas of your life. So it covers setting boundaries with family, friends, work, yourself, boundaries with God, boundary conflicts, developing healthy boundaries. It's a really easy to read book. Yeah. Okay. Like little chapters. I like little chapters. I do. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. It's a great book.
Wow.
Very practical book. So.
Right. Okay. So we'll bear that one in mind, and it's a great recommendation, and thank you for that. Okay. Good.
But I think with emotions, sometimes as Christians we feel that we shouldn't have the negative emotions. That if we're trusting God, then what is there to be afraid of?
Right.
Why should we get angry or anxious or any of that stuff? But in actual fact, God created all the emotions so he created them to be used, not to tick certain ones and it be considered a sin if you get angry or frustrated with something. So try not to be too hard on yourself with that, and not be afraid to get angry sometimes and have a moan or a shout.
Yeah.
The important thing is to share that with God as well, because he can help you if you're struggling with certain emotions and they're taking over rather. He can help you with that stuff. He doesn't just care about the big things in life. It's the little struggles too.
Yeah.
And just carry on being as honest as you can with each other, and just using those emotions to express yourself, and be as specific as you can, because that is so much more helpful than everyone trying to tiptoe around and guess what's going on.
Yes.
Oh, there's a bad atmosphere.
Yeah.
So there's something wrong, or Dad looks upset, or Mum's a bit serious.
Right.
You know, why not just say how it is, instead of saying, yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah.
It's a good day. Why not be a bit daring there and say, actually, I had a really rubbish morning because this happened and that happened, and it made me feel, you know, stretch it out as much as you can. Or I had a great morning because this happened and it made me feel.
Right.
It's a good sort of skeleton sentence that to use. So you think of your emotion that you're wanting to describe.
Yeah.
Be specific. Give an example if you want, and then say how it made you feel, or what you need, or what helped, what didn't help. It's quite. It takes a bit getting used to that.
Yeah.
But it's so helpful for everyone else that's around.
Right. So Rachel, we were just talking. Just recap a little bit about the lists. Very helpful to not be overwhelmed with a massive list. Have one thing at a time. To work on at a time. But then you were talking some more about it. So if you want to just recap a little bit, and then.
With this list, once you've got your things that only you can do and you've spread those out, just concentrate on the day you're on. I'm a great believer now. It took a bit of practice in just looking at Tuesday sort of thing. And there's even a joke that goes on in this house where people will say, oh, so what are you doing Friday morning? And I actually say, do you know, I'm on Tuesday. I don't know anything about Friday. I don't even want to look at Friday.
Right.
And it's said in a joke way, but they know that I'm quite serious because I can get stressed quite easily. So you just focus on the day that you're on if you can. Yeah. And don't go each side of that. And then the other things that are on the list, anything you can delegate. Don't be afraid to ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness. Sometimes we have quite high expectations of ourselves, like I sometimes do. And just because you've always done 100 things at once and you're Superwoman or Superman, doesn't mean you have to do that for your whole life or the next 5 years. You can give 50% some days and 100% another, and 70 is okay as well. You know, just let yourself off the hook a bit.
Right.
Don't be embarrassed to ask for help, because people that offer help usually really want to do it.
Okay.
They really, really get as much from doing that as you do from accepting it.
Right.
So try and
that's interesting.
Put your pride to one side or whatever it is, and take people up on their offers sometimes, and fully. Don't be afraid of that. Share the load, delegate things, even if you've always done the cooking and got the shopping and this, that and the other. It doesn't mean someone else can't do that sometimes, or you swap roles in the house, see how it goes.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So what you're doing then is bringing what can be overwhelming and stretching it and making community out of it, really, it actually connects you with a lot of other people to help you with the things that are in your life that you need help with, and putting the pride aside as well, which is really important, which we find difficult sometimes, because we can think we can do it all on our own, and really we do need help. And so the last thing that I'm just going to say, Rachel, from all your years of work with people and helping them through their issues and helping them to come out healthier on the other side, is, as a Christian, one of the verses is Romans 8:28, which really helps me to realise in the sovereignty of God in our lives as Christians, and that no matter what it is, nothing's wasted, that God can use everything. So Romans 8:28 says that all things work together for the good of those that love God and have been called according to his purpose. So all things work together for the good of that person, for your good as a believer of Christ. And so even the most difficult things, and the past can be a difficult past, but I like what it says on one of your signs: whatever your past has been, you have a spotless future. So the future's yet to be, and I like that, because God doesn't waste anything. And can you maybe just share a little bit about what Romans 8:28 maybe means to you? I know I've sprung this on you a little bit, but in the context of a healthy you and working through some of our issues, what does that really mean to you as a Christian, would you say?
I think I lean a lot more on God now than I used to, and instead of just giving God my shopping list, if you like, prayer list, and please help me panic list, instead of just leaving that with him and then taking it back on again and flapping about it the next day, which was my pattern, I now really believe that what I'm asking of him, and I'm quite specific with that, he is going to answer that.
Right.
And he's going to help me with that. And I get a real strength from that now, which gives me confidence and helps me relax more. And I think when you've been through different things, I think instead of dwelling on all the hurt and letting that resentment build up, why not use that to help other people in similar situations?
Right.
And just spend time chatting with them and supporting them through those similar things.